Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Tolhurst and welcome to Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 30th of July, the final one of the month and the first one majorly of the summer holidays. I'm Charlie Tolhurst and I'm joined by Labour Party Sports Zach Chambers to run up all the latest news. Hello Zach.
Hello Charlie, hello mate.
So we're going to start off the week by talking about the Tory leadership race. As always, in my opening monologue tonight, the Conservative Party now have a choice between two candidates that are very underwhelming in my view. Don't offer much credibility in terms of their outgoing successor Boris Johnson and take the Conservative Party back to pre-Brexit politics from the David Cameron and George Osborne era. This week we have seen many TV debates and a couple of noteworthy ones to mention, from the likes of BBC on Monday to a very bizarre Talk TV debate which ended up with Kate McCann fainting on air. Thank goodness she was okay and was back presenting a day later on the news desk on the station, replacing Tom Newton Dunn. Now, the week has been full of camaraderie from both candidates. Some Tory MPs and Conservative MPs backing one and some of them backing the other. The final two certainly are no strangers to the cabinet, as Rishi Sunak has been stamped by some people as betraying Boris, whilst the other candidate, Liz Truss, has been targeted more liberal. However, though, both policies differ. Rishi Sunak making a U-turn the other day on VAT cuts. Very interesting indeed there. Zach, what is your overall assessment of this week's Tory leadership contest, including the debates this week between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss?
What I think is that it proves that it's all Liz Truss's to lose at the minute. She's ahead in the polls. She's ahead in multiple polls. If you ask Conservative members specifically, she's ahead. If you ask more of the general public, they're more interested in Rishi Sunak potentially. But as you can tell in the defence of this week, Rishi Sunak is playing the offence-defence method, unfortunately, for him, because he's behind. And he, at the moment, feels like he has much more to win than to lose by doing what he's been doing at the moment. He's struggling to get the Tory membership to really fully support him at the moment, Charlie, which you can pretty much tell by the fact that he's having to do a few U-turns. He's taking more risks. He looks like a man that needs to come up with something at the moment. Agree or disagree? You could tell he went on Andrew Neil yesterday evening. Very brave of him to do that. Liz Truss has refused to go on, which I think is quite sad, really. And I think she should do that because, quite frankly, you want to be grilled by Andrew Neil because she's one of the most.
Asked Boris Johnson hiding in a fridge a couple of years during the 2019 general election.
Boris Johnson, Liz Truss is basically doing the same as Boris Johnson here, Charlie, because Liz Truss, Boris Johnson also, originally he did get interviewed by Andrew Neil for the leadership contest. There's no denying that he did get interviewed. But when it came to a general election, he decided not to be interviewed by Andrew Neil. Yeah, they went ahead of the one with Andrew Marr, but not with Andrew Neil. That, at the end of the day, to be fair, Charlie, it didn't make much more of a difference. He still won the election. But Liz Truss, now that she knows she is the front runner, she's playing a bit safe with the one-on-one interviews. She's even refused to, I believe, to do an interview with Nick Robinson from Radio 4 and one of their political, the presenter for Today programme. So yeah, it's not like she acts like she's well ahead and not want to take any more risk. If that lead keeps increasing, I would start risking it out and going on other shows just to prove the point. But this has been a crucial period, Charlie, and I personally think as the week has gone on, people have felt like that in terms of Liz Truss's presentation delivery, it's become a bit more effective, basically. I have to say, when I have a watch her, I just think, what's the point? Why are people choosing this person? Why are Tory MPs so interested in this person? Like, when you based on her presentation debate performance previously, she looked like she was lackluster. She looked like she just looked underwhelming and she was out of her depth. So she's improved a little bit throughout the week, but I still maintain that view, even though she has improved. So, yeah, I think that as well. And one of the things that you have to realise as well, Charlie, is it's all good promising red meat to the base, like immigration, VAT, tax, Rishi Sunak, which is obviously not going so well if he's having to U-turn. He's if he's having to do all of that, then he's got a bit of an issue. To be fair, Sunak, because he's obviously campaigned. He's trying to find some spots where they can get some Tory members to that are sort of swinging. Not sure at the moment to switch over to him, and that's not necessarily a positive thing. I mean, today he's been talking to Conservative members about wokeness, which is, I think, is the last desperate attempt at looking relevant to Tory members. I mean, if you having to go as far as talking about how left-wing agitators are making all this wokeness and calling the Equality Act a woke load of nonsense. I mean, tell that to the LGBT community who have worked hard to get that in place and all that sort of thing. It's not exactly woke nonsense that there is equality about, but I don't, I think that Sunak is clinging desperately. The ballots are going to be opening Monday, Charlie, and throughout this period where everyone's going to start voting, it looks like it's Liz Truss's race to win at the moment. She's got the momentum. She certainly impressed Tory members on Thursday, but whether I personally feel whether she's bound by reality in terms of her promises and pledges that she's done to the Tory membership is another thing. And I don't think, personally for me, that it's going to, he's going to find more likelihood of being able to implement, she's going to be able to implement more policies compared to Rishi Sunak at the moment. So that's where I think we stand at the moment. So it's been quite an eventful week in the Conservative leadership.
And the Sun debate as well was very, very eventful. Watching the debate and then Liz Truss mid-sentence literally getting shocked by Kate McCann fainting. That was a huge moment in that contest.
That was quite the moment. It's not often you see British television debates go wrong as that, but Kate McCann was the victim of an unfortunate incident where she collapsed and took the podium with her. And we didn't see her vision collapsing, but we heard it definitely on the TV when it was in shot of Liz Truss. And it was a shocking moment. Liz Truss reacted with pretty much shock, naturally. Thankfully, she was okay, but the debate was abandoned after 30 minutes. We were supposed to get a whole hour debate with them some post-match afterwards. But good to see that she's okay. And good to see that the following day that she was back on presenting the new desk on Talk TV as well. I have to say, I think Liz, it was good debate, I have to say, before that, even, moderated well. Liz Truss was all right, actually, I have to say. I think she'll also be pretty happy with the fact that she's got two key endorsements this week. She got Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, who's been running the Ukrainian policy, and she got Tom Tugendhat, the One Nation centrist Tory. That feels like change is needed. I must admit, it's a bit strange that basically Tugendhat's endorsing a Johnson-like candidate because she wants to be he wants the party to change a little bit. I'm not sure it's going to be necessarily the change, but momentum, as I said, swinging in Liz Truss's way.
It's going to be interesting, and I think seeing how the Conservative Party leadership race goes, it's a matter of time before we find out who our next Prime Minister is. It's only, 5 weeks away now, pretty much, 4 or 5 weeks after the recess. We're back to, obviously, the end Parliament's back, and we'll have a new Prime Minister and a new leader of the Conservative Party. We don't know who's going to be. Will it be Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak? And obviously, as you said, Zach, this week, the two endorsements for Truss being Tom Tugendhat and also Ben Wallace, who I thought would have thrown their support behind Rishi Sunak. the underdog, as he calls himself, during that race to become Prime Minister. So please keep an eye out next week. There's another debate on, I believe, on the on the Thursday, next Thursday on Sky. There'll be probably more debates coming up. 8 o'clock on Thursday.
And Hustings on Monday as well.
And Hustings on Monday.
Hustings on Monday, yeah. Hustings on Monday. And throughout the week now, let me just check when the Hustings are as well. Because we've got a few more coming up this week, I think, Charlie. There's Hustings in Exeter, and there's also Hustings in Cardiff as well. And I believe, and there's also Hustings in Eastbourne on the 5th of August as well. So that's where I've been on holiday before. Nevertheless, but so there's 3 Hustings coming up this week and a debate on the 3rd of August hosted by Kay Burley at Sky Studios as well.
Yes, I bet they answer a question on. I don't think there'll be any questions on her breaking lockdown rules. Let's just say that.
No, I don't think so.
Because we had
about the future.
just remember that. Just remember what happened with Matt Hancock resigning over breaking lockdown rules, and then Kay Burley asked Boris Johnson. He got fined for breaking lockdown rules. God, I remember that really well. It was an amazing flow there of questioning from Sky News' crazy journalists on that one. Moving on now to the war in Ukraine. Let's talk about the Russian invasion of Ukraine now. I feel like this doesn't get enough press attention now. Let's talk about that. Now, I want to say to one journalist this week in particular who gets a nomination later on, which I'm sure you guys all know who I'm talking about. Yes, this week, or earlier this week, Piers Morgan went out into Ukraine. He risked his life to go out there because obviously of what's been happening with the war in the Russian invasion. There's plenty of dangers involved with journalism over there at the moment. Zach, Piers Morgan going over this week, doing plenty of interviews with the Ukrainian civilians, and obviously an exclusive interview with the First Lady and the President Volodymyr Zelensky. What did you take away from Piers Morgan's week in Ukraine and also the other latest developments?
I think that was certainly a good set of shows that Piers Morgan did outside in Ukraine, Charlie. It was a very effective week of what was showing what was going on there and what's happening on the ground still, the leftovers, and how lives are changed. Piers spoke to civilians that have had their lives changed because of this. Spoke to the Klitschko's, which was a very good interview, I have to say as well. It's always good to speak to the Klitschko's, considering they run Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, aka the mayors of Kyiv, and we also saw that very good interview, with the First Lady, and Zelensky. That was pretty good, I have to say, as well. It was a very effective interview, 75 minutes on Piers Morgan Uncensored Talk TV. It was a very good interview, Charlie. Talk about life in general, how they met, the war, how they're feeling, what's next, how they're going to deal with things. It was a very effective interview, Charlie, as well. And it's it was a good way to mark Piers' last set of shows before he's going on the summer break. Jeremy Kyle's going to sit in for him over the next few weeks until September, I believe, which will be interesting. It'll be like a bit of a reunion seeing Kyle on TV again. Although to be fair, he's been on TV for a little bit now, considering the fact that Talk TV has had its own TV channel, really. In fairness, as well. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a. It's been a good week of showcasing journalism in Ukraine, and it's still going on, Charlie. We know it's still going on today. There's been a few rockets been hitting Kyiv as well. And one bit area of positive news, Charlie, I have to say, in the fight is Kherson. It appears that the Ukrainians are making a counter-offensive at Kherson to reclaim that back from the Russians, which is the only major city in sort of inner Ukraine that has Russian control at the moment. But it's looking more and more likely that the Ukrainians could get back that city of Kherson and make a counter-offensive at the Russians there, which is brilliant, which is good to see, and we're good to see them get back as well. Now, there's also been incidents in Kharkiv as well, unfortunately. It's left one person dead in the south of the country, and also hit a school in Kharkiv as well.
Missile, probably, I reckon.
Yeah, the mayor of the Mykolaiv also seeking to stage a counter-offensive. One person was killed when rockets pounded 2 residential districts overnight. 6 others were wounded in strike, which left windows and doors broken and balconies destroyed. As well, yeah. So it's still going on at certain sectors as well, Charlie. It's still going hard and strong at certain areas of the city as well. The Ukrainian officials denounced a call by the Russian embassy in Britain for fighters of the Azov region to face humiliation and execution. That's just war crimes. As well, Russian strikes in Kharkiv, we said as well. Ukrainian military said it killed scores of Russian soldiers and destroyed 2 ammunition dumps in fighting the Kherson. That's where the Ukrainians are making a counteroffensive at the moment, Charlie. The US ambassador saying that the Russia intended to dismantle Ukraine. That's pretty much true. Gazprom suspending gas supplies to Latvia following their little tensions with Moscow as well. And what Richard Moore, the MI6 intelligence agency, is saying is that Russia is running out of steam, Charlie. They run out of motivation, they run out of ability to do things properly. They're losing, the ability to, be able to confidently hit targets because they're so tired out. They run out of, land, and they're just running out. They're running out the will to be able to do things at the moment, Charlie. So Russian fatigue is starting to set in, certainly at the moment, Charlie.
I think they don't. It's either they don't care. It's either they don't care about their president. They say, "I don't want to be here," or they just want to. They're really tired and don't want to fight. I think most of them are probably not deciding that, but it's a case of the Russian people choose what they want. They either choose to want war or destruction, or potentially have go in and just shoot Ukrainians dead. It's horrible. I can't fault this. And this interview that I'm going to play for you now, guys, is a interview that was conducted by Piers Morgan of Talk TV out in Ukraine. It's 11 minutes long, and this was when Piers Morgan interviews 2 young Ukrainian adults whose home was bombed in Kiev. This was when a missile strike hit an apartment block in the city. Have a listen to this.
So I've just bumped into these 2 young ladies, and you're both Ukrainian, and you actually have been renting this apartment on the second floor there for the last 3 years. But you weren't here, thank God, when this missile attack happened. Where were you?
We've actually been with our parents staying in Rivne city, and we were woken up by the alarm. So, this like Ajax system, they send you alarm if something happens to your apartment, and there was like fire, and then...
What is that moment like when you see your phone and it's
Actually,
fire, and you know that's your home?
For us, it was like, oh my God, not again. Because, there was the first... Actually, there were 3 attacks in this very region of Kiev, and the second one destroyed this house and killed 1 woman, and on the first time our windows were like, they've fallen out. So when we woke up,
first time we already had that alarm, and we understood that was an explosion here.
But we didn't assume it could be that bad.
But if you'd been here that day, you might have been killed by the
I mean, hopefully we're like, so if we, we're hiding,
in the back of the apartment,
probably we would be safe. But we've seen that the doors in our apartment, they were pushed out with the explosion wave. So
how old are you both?
22,
23.
I mean, I can't even imagine what it must be like for young people living in what was a very free, democratic country,
amazing city, Kyiv.
Amazing city, beautiful architecture, and then suddenly you're attacked by Russia, and this is now the new normal for you. What's it like for you?
It's devastating. We sometimes do not believe that we live in these circumstances. Yesterday we spent the whole day in Kyiv too. We were walking, seeing those sights, people, and then we hear the air raid siren, and you're like, okay, let's go hide. And this is like, it's overwhelming. And it's not fair.
Actually, it feels like someone is taking your life, and you cannot control You cannot plan anything. Literally, we don't like this period of our lives, like 22, 23 years old. It's when you actually start everything, start planning, start doing
Building the future,
Yeah,
The whole
everything.
life ahead of you.
Yes,
And then
but it's
any
not.
moment it could be
Yeah.
it could be taken.
Yeah, but we feel like we cannot plan anything because
Anything,
we
yeah.
don't know what we can do tomorrow. Where can we stay tomorrow?
Will we rent an apartment? Will it be bombed? Can we
Again,
stay with our
When
parents?
you when
Or,
you
know?
hear those alarms, because I heard two this morning. I was
Yeah.
in my hotel, it's only a mile and a half away. And when I heard it, it does make you feel tense because you're not
Yes.
sure
Yes.
what it means. Does that mean there's an attack happening? Obviously, most of them turn out to be false alarms. But you never
It's
know.
not
right?
actually
You never
false
know.
alarms because it's actually alarms that something in the air, and there are other regions of Ukraine that are bombed at the same moment.
So they're not false alarms. They're
No, they're not.
Yes.
So
They
it's
just
like
it's happening somewhere else.
Yes.
yeah, it's for
So
sure.
that is something happening somewhere.
Something
Yeah, so
happening.
you're like sitting and thinking what is gonna be here or in other region, and when you are in Kiev and other region is bombed, it's not.
Yeah, you're
Actually-
thinking about your friends, your family, who might get bombed any minute. So
Yeah.
Have you lost any loved ones in the war so far?
Things got no.
things got no, but a lot of our close friends, like really close friends, are fighting. Right
Really?
Now.
Yeah,
Yes.
Young-
They're the front
young
line.
male
Young
friends?
man, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And how old are they?
Like we are.
Yeah, like the same age, 22, 24.
And are they professional soldiers?
No,
or they-
No.
they volunteered and joined
Wow.
the armed forces of Ukraine.
These are good friends of yours.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's very
very
close.
close.
How do you
friends.
feel about that?
Actually, very, very difficult because every day you're texting them and asking, "Are you alive?" And when they don't answer for
For like
2 days,
48 hours, and you're like, all these ideas going through your head. What's
Of course.
happening? What's going on?
kind of hard.
It must be awful.
It's
I can see.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I'm
Pinch
not
their
surprised. It must be heartrending. These are friends of yours on the front line who are not soldiers. They're fighting for their country
Yeah.
and their freedom, right? And your freedom.
Actually, they're fighting for us being here in Tokyo
Yeah.
right now because if we should be thankful for them, and that's the reason we're doing everything we can do.
like
And
donating and volunteering and everything we can do little by little in order to at least be somehow helpful for them.
As is human nature, the world is no longer as focused on Ukraine as maybe it was several months ago.
Yeah,
But it needs to be. The fighting hasn't got less, it's got more.
it's for
Even
sure.
more.
Yeah,
What is your message to the world if they're watching this?
start caring. We're fighting not only for freedom of Ukraine, but for the freedom of Europe, for the freedom of the democracy and the rule of law and everything.
And actually, we think you cannot resonate with us, you cannot feel the same, definitely. But if you just imagine that any minute, even now,
It can happen to you,
maybe it will give some more
Perspective.
perspective.
Well, in London, obviously in World War II, we had the Blitz.
Yes.
We had German bombers coming over doing this to our building. So Londoners with long memories who are elderly, they remember this happening in my capital city. But the idea of it happening now in 2022 in a European city is just an extraordinary thing that this is happening again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why,
it's
like,
just-
when we were told like the war might happen, the full invasion might happen, we did not believe it. On the 23rd of February, we were just talking like, no, everything's gonna
You
be
were here?
fine.
You were
We were here,
Yeah.
yes. So, and we were woken up at 5 a.m.
By explosions around the city.
around the city, and we're like, what's happening? And then we started checking, and they're like, yeah, the full invasion.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
When that convoy was coming into nearer and nearer to Kyiv, I remember watching that and thinking, what must it be like to be in Kyiv and seeing the television pictures of this thing coming towards you, 40 miles long?
You even do not understand. You also
No, yes.
stare and do not know what to do. And the thing is that Russia is doing this not only to get the territories, I don't know, but all the reason they're like thinking and the main thing that this is a terrorist state and they're just killing our homes.
So it's like 9/11 happening all over again every week.
Yeah.
What do you feel about Vladimir Putin?
I don't think there's a word that can describe this feeling, like hatred.
We do not consider him
A
as a
human
human
being,
being. Like,
I don't think he considers Ukrainians to be human beings. I don't think he cares, does he?
does he care about anything in the
Anything
world?
in the world, yeah.
He doesn't care about
I-
Russian people
I don't wanna-
as well.
Yeah, I don't. It might sound weird for me, but he's a psychopath, ruling a whole country of people who support him.
Yeah, it's not only like his fault, and we do consider that that is a war not between
Putin and Ukrainians.
Ukraine.
A lot of people in his country support him, and that also speaks a lot.
Well, they believe he's, repressing
Yeah,
Nazis and fascists,
yes.
helping the Ukrainian people.
But we should say that
He says he's liberating you.
And at some point you're like,
it's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous.
We've been having like amazing life with the democracy in our country, with a lot of future. We stayed here as like we didn't go to study abroad. We stayed
We
in
decided to stay in
Ukraine
Ukraine
because
to-
that's our country.
this is the only country I know, and this is the only country I want to live in.
That when we look on from the UK and other countries, the spirit of the Ukrainian people, the resilience, the will to win, the will to repel the Russians.
Because
It's quite extraordinary. Where do you get this from?
that's
It's
our
in our
blood,
Yeah.
that's our nature,
Yeah.
because that's our home. And I actually every day I'm wondering with these people who are fighting with our country, and I even wake up and think, why are we so strong?
How
How
we
it
do it,
happens?
yes.
But probably it's because our ancestors they did the same for us.
Yes.
So we have to do
Yes.
this for our
What do you
children.
think of your president Zelensky?
Actually, we're
we're
proud
of
of
yes.
him, and we are proud of how he's actually holding the
How
whole
he
country
communicates to
together.
the whole how he unites the country, and how he talks to people abroad.
I heard him speak yesterday at the
It's magnetized,
the summit.
yes.
Well, he has a power of his rhetoric, and it reminds British people of Winston Churchill in
Yes,
World War II.
yes, we also
Where
see
just
this
through
resemblance.
the strength of his communication, he
Yeah.
can rally the country.
Yes.
We have to say that he actually represents our feelings, not vice versa. We're not like standing behind of him. He is representing our thoughts.
Yes.
So that's probably the main idea why is he so powerful, because he represents the whole country.
Some people think Ukraine should just let the Russians take.
Oh no.
No,
The
no, no,
Donbass.
no, no,
No
no,
way.
no way, no
We
way.
pay like too high price
Yeah.
for this.
Too many people have died for freedom, so we cannot let them down right now.
So it depends on us.
Do you think you'll win?
We
we
know,
sure.
Yes,
We're
yes.
definitely sure.
I wish you all the very best of luck.
Thank you. Thank
I
you
really
so
do.
much.
We're all right behind you.
Thank you so much for
And
everything you
to
do.
come here and hear your stories is very moving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry you've got to go through that. I have 3 sons in their 20s, a young daughter younger than you, but I can't even imagine them being suddenly enlisted to go and fight for their country. I heard about these stories in World War II, but you just don't imagine it in this day and age. And the fact you have these good friends in their early 20s who've never had to fire a gun in anger, and they're now on the front line risking their lives
Yeah.
for all of us is an amazing thing.
Yeah, thank you. That's the only thing
Yeah.
we can say.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Ellen.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for your
much.
time.
Thank you for doing.
So that was a very unexpected and very moving interview with these 2 young Ukrainian women, particularly about their friends, who weren't soldiers. They've been enlisted and gone off to risk their lives, and you could see the emotion on their faces talking about their friends. But they live in this apartment, which is the second floor, with the boarded up windows and the dangling air conditioning machine. And you've got to think if they'd been here that day, and they were possibly going to be here then, luckily we're out of town. If they'd been there, would they have survived? Maybe not. Other people were killed in that attack. So I thought that really brought it home, actually, what it's like for these particularly young Ukrainians. I mean, I thought when she said that they can't plan for anything. They can't plan for anything in their lives. Because how can you? You may not be alive next week. Absolutely desperate situation, but wow, the spirit and the resilience. Extraordinary people. It's been pointed out to me just now that there is some interesting lettering on one of these boarded up apartment windows here, and it's very specific. So each of those are Ukrainian letters, which represent Ukrainian words, and the Ukrainian words are Putin, go f*** yourself.
Yes, thank you there to Piers Morgan for a very exclusive interview there, a very detailed interview about how the war in Ukraine has been happening. Zach, what did you take away from that interview with Piers Morgan and them 2 Ukrainian young adults?
I think it just concludes that life is still hell there, Charlie. They've gone through a lot, they've suffered a lot, and they've had to sacrifice a lot, and this is their life now. They don't feel safe. They don't feel like they're in peace. They're at war themselves with Russia. They obviously, if you imagine a Russian person going through here, it's hard to see how any sympathy and friendliness at all. You can imagine that from the Ukrainian residents and civilians. So, yeah, I feel very sorry for them. They're very brave people. Hopefully, they can rebuild lives and livelihoods as soon as this is over, which we don't know when it's going to be over, Charlie. So, yeah, very heartfelt interview there.
And Piers also said he heard 2 air raid sirens as well, which means take cover immediately. To all those people listening in Ukraine tonight, we salute you. Slava Ukraini is my message tonight on this show. Glory to Ukraine. We want you to win the war against Russia, who is the fatal aggressor in this instance. Moving on now to the sport briefing. We're going to start with Formula One tonight with a breaking development from the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying today, which saw the shot of the season and George Russell taking a maiden pole position and the first of the season for a struggling Mercedes squad in very incredible circumstances. This result wowed me. It wowed WTF1 on TikTok so much. Matt Gallagher was shocked to the face to see Russell on pole for Mercedes. Zach, what did you make to qualifying today for the Hungarian Grand Prix?
Oh, it was absolutely. I have to say, it shocked me as well. Seeing that pole position lap, it was wow. I mean, that came out of nowhere. We knew Mercedes were improving each race that they've gone to, but no one expected them to take pole. We were all expecting them to be like potentially the third quickest team around. But that in the case of that, Charlie, no, they were George Russell managed to shock us all and put in a stunning last lap of qualifying. You have to say, to put it on pole. It was an incredible job, and I wonder why everyone was surprised because it just came out of nowhere, and it was stunning, Charlie, absolutely stunning. Shocked me. I have to say, I certainly had to look up where the old George meme was, and it's obviously been this meme going around for a little bit now that says George Russell is the type of guy. Well, he's certainly the type of guy to shock us all and put it on pole. That's the number one for the George Russell was the type of guy book. Can he win it tomorrow? Who knows? Mercedes have been much quicker in the race compared to qualifyings, and we've seen that plenty of times before. So my opinion is I think he's got a very good shot at winning the race tomorrow, providing that Ferrari do not screw up their strategy like they did last time out in France, because we know what happened with the strategy there. I mean, come on. It was dog's dinner strategy, some of it. And
Leclerc crashing out as well.
And then dog's dinner strategy on Carlos Sainz when he could have got into the podium. I just hope that doesn't happen again. It was a very poor qualifying, by the way, for Red Bull, Charlie. Perez only managing 11th, didn't even get out of Q2. Didn't get into Q3. And then Max Verstappen on his crucial lap, had a power unit issue. He therefore starts 10th because he couldn't get his important lap in. He had a poor first lap, only 7th fastest. And Sainz, well, he's nearly on pole position, but he then got shocked us all with that Mercedes lap, George Russell. What a stunning lap. Hopefully one of many pole positions coming up for George Russell, because that was simply outstanding, Charlie, that lap. And hopefully George Russell will convert that tomorrow, as long as the strategy is good and he gets a good start and he gets through turn one cleanly. Let's see what happens, because we've got a very exciting race now tomorrow, with the Red Bulls 9th and 10th and 11th, and the one Mercedes out in front, Sainz on the dirty side of the grid. It will be very interesting. There's going to be a lot of mixed strategies, I think, and it's going to make the race of the circuit, the Monaco without the barriers, a lot more interesting. And this is the final race before the summer break as well, so it's going to be a lot more to play for. it's going to be a bit of a task, I think, for Leclerc to make up the 69 points he's currently behind. But tomorrow's a big opportunity to claw some of it back, Charlie.
Yeah, going through the grid now for the race. Or the top 10, should I say. George Russell on pole for Mercedes. Carlos Sainz is on row 1 with George Russell. Row 2 is Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris. Row 3 is Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso, both Alpines. Row 4 is Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton had a DRS issue, couldn't get any faster. Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen share row 5, former teammates, of course, at Red Bull between, and I quote this now, 2016 to 2018, my bad, sorry there. Few seasons at Red Bull there. Sergio Perez only 11th, Guan Yu Zhou was 12th, then it's Kevin Magnussen, Lance Stroll, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda, Alex Albon and Sebastian Vettel, who announces his retirement at the end of the season from the sport. Pierre Gasly 19th, 20th, and the slowest of all was Nicholas Latifi, despite having a great first sector during Q1 there. So all to play for tomorrow, lights out at 2 o'clock for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Final race till the summer break, for sure. Moving on now to Formula E action in London today in the Docklands area for the London E Prix. Watched the highlights earlier, and it was a win for Jake Dennis today. But Zach, Nick de Vries's driving was absolutely crazy today.
And yeah, Nick de Vries got a 5-second time penalty post-race as well, which means he is off the podium. He finished on the podium. He's officially classified off of it. In fact, he's gone from 3rd to 6th position, actually, after that 5-second penalty. Very important penalty loss as well, Charlie. Very, very. It's a costly error to do on something like that. That's very costly. But Jake Dennis, the hometown boy, winning the London E Prix, very big victory for him certainly as well. Started on pole, he finished on pole as well, Charlie, and he got the fastest lap of the race. It's been a perfect weekend as well, Charlie. It's been pretty much the perfect weekend. Perfect race so far for Jake Dennis. And he's finished ahead of Stoffel Vandoorne, who's extended his championship lead, by the way, to 26 points. That is crucial, as we now got 3 races to go, Charlie. If Vandoorne has got to finish strongly, and if he finishes the position that he's in, he's going to have a lot of momentum going into the last 2 races in South Korea and Seoul. Very crucial races ahead for him. Nick Cassidy 3rd. Obviously, he got promoted to the podium after de Vries's penalty. 4th, Oliver Askew. 5th, Mitch Evans. We say Nick de Vries from 3rd to 6th with that 5-second penalty. Antonio Fritz Costa 7th. Good drive from him from 11th to 7th. Same could be said for Mitch Evans, by the way, 14th to 5th. Lucas Di Grassi, very good race for him, actually. 22nd, last on the grid tonight. Same for Pascal Wehrlein, finished it with a point in the top 10. 11th for Sebastian Buemi, 12th Andrea Lotta, 13th Alexander Sims, and John Verme was 14th. Oliver Turley 15th, Robin Front 16th, Dan Tipton 17th, Eduardo Montara 18th, Sergio Setti Cameron 19th, Antonio Giovinazzi also DNF'd, Oliver Rowan as well as Sam Bird, another DNF as well.
And I'll tell you why. Mortara had a collision with Bird on the first lap. And Sergio Sette Cameron had a great race, then ran out of energy.
Yeah. You can't be losing energy. Very energy saving is a very crucial charge. It's a bit like fuel saving in the past when you used to Formula One races, when you used to be topped up on, I think, 19 litres max, and you have to do fuel saving towards the end. You need to do energy saving. Extremely important, that, Charlie. It can't be costing energy as well. There's another race tomorrow, Charlie. It'll be doing it all over again. It'll be practice. There'll be qualifying. There's a race as well tomorrow, as well, clashing with the Formula One, unfortunately. So that's going on record on my Skybox. But yeah, crucial games ahead as well. Very crucial.
Yeah, and I'll be keeping tuned with the F1 tomorrow as well, where I'm working. So, of course, I'll be finishing my shift a bit earlier tomorrow and straight out to watch all the motor racing action tomorrow. Moving on now to, let's go to NASCAR now. I want to talk about last weekend's action at Pocono.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had a very surprising end to the race. Now, thank goodness I watched the end of the race because we saw collisions galore. We saw Denny Hamlin winning on track, colliding with Ross Chastain. We all knew that was going to happen at some point. And then what do we get? The first two drivers got DQ'd, or what we call disqualified, for finding something weird on the front facer of the car. Basically, both Toyota Camrys were found to have an illegal part fitted, which meant Chase Elliott took the honours for Hendrick Motorsport.
Oh, Charlie, this is the first time that I can ever remember that the top two being disqualified in a NASCAR Cup Series race. This is the first time, I believe, since the 1960s that this a disqualification, a winner getting disqualified, has actually happened. So, as you said, it was what is it? Tyler Reddick was it ahead of Kyle Busch or something like that? I think it said
Hamlin and Busch, yeah.
Hamlin, sorry, Hamlin and Busch ahead in first and second on the track. And then the NASCAR did their post-race inspection. They found something illegal on the car as well. And that was enough to disqualify them from the race, Charlie. Failing post-race inspection. It was disqualification for Hamlin and Busch, the top two. Chase Elliott with the victory, Charlie. Very surprising end to the race as well. A race that was pretty much dominated by Hamlin and Busch, but obviously found to be illegal at the end of the day. Tyler Reddick was second. Daniel Suarez was third. Christopher Bell fourth. Kyle Larson fifth. Michael McDowell sixth. Truex seventh. Bubba Wallace eighth. Eric Jones ninth. Austin Dillon 10th. Now, Michael McDowell has also been in the spotlight, Charlie, because he has also been given post-race penalties as well. He's lost 100 points, Charlie, for it was a legally modified vendor supplied part. Front Row Motorsports have been fined 100 points.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Blake Harris has been fined €100,000 and suspended for the next 4 races, Charlie. So Michael McDowell's path to the playoffs just got a little bit more difficult with the fine as well. So yeah, not a welcome development for him as well. Now, qualifying took place, I believe, yesterday. Today, I think it's today. It was today, Charlie.
Yeah.
Qualifying took place. It's Tyler Reddick on the pole position, Charlie, ahead of Austin Cindric on the front row. Chase Briscoe third, Christopher fourth, Joe Logano fifth, Ryan Blaney sixth, Michael McDowell seventh, Chase Elliott eighth, Todd Gillen ninth, and Kyle Busch in 10th. Ty Gibbs, I believe, is substituting for Kurt Busch, I believe, this weekend. Continue to as well because of that incident, I believe, at Pocono. The Xfinity Series race is still going at the moment. AJ Allmendinger is leading that at the moment at lap 29 out of 62, Charlie, ahead of Alex Bowman, ahead of Justin Allgaier, ahead of Jake Berry, ahead of Sam Creed, Ross Chastain 6th, Daniel Hemrick 7th as well. Cad Garela in 8th, Sam Meyer 9th, and Austin Hill in 10th. That is the top 10 at the moment, Charlie. The Camping World Truck Series raced at the raceway park, the shortway track, Charlie, on the Friday, and it was Grant Enfinger who won that race ahead of Ben Rose and Zane Smith as well. This is the first race, by the way, of the truck chase, their truck playoff as well. I don't know why I keep saying chase, because that used to be the name for it. But it is the Camping World Series playoffs at the moment, Charlie. Let me give you the standings for that after that weekend. For the televisionable drivers as well. Grant Enfinger is the one.
Oh, sorry guys, we do have some technical difficulties. I do apologise. There we've just had some technical difficulties on air with Zach. I just want to hope you guys will bear in with us for a second until we get Zach back. Oh, there has been some technical issues with Zach's end that we'll get back to you now.
Wow, it went like that. Boom. I got 3 I don't know why, Charlie, but I got 3 screens running. I have no idea why, but there we go. My browser went kaput just as I was trying to explain things. So I will probably avoid going onto other websites for now whilst we're on here. But yeah, what I was going to say is that there's a playoff at the moment, Charlie, for the truck series as well at the moment. And I was going to say that Grant Enfinger is in it, was in it. Let me get up on my phone actually, because it would be a good idea just in case the problems persist on my computer as well. But yeah, they're in their playoff at the moment. This was the first race of the playoff for the trucks, for the Camping World Truck Series as well. So Zane Smith is actually the one that's leading at the moment. Ben Rose is second, Grant Enfinger is third in the standings. Sam Freestone is fourth as well, and it's Joe Nemechek, John Harmony to competes the top 5 at the moment, Charlie, as well. So yeah, that's the Camping World Truck Series action that weekend as well. The next race, Charlie, for the Cup Series after this is Michigan on the Sunday, the 7th of August. The Xfinity is also racing on Saturday, 6th of August as well. And the Camping World Truck Series is off next week, and they'll be back at Richmond in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. That's all the NASCAR action for you guys as well. Also, racing this weekend in the Cup Series, Danny Kvyat racing this weekend as well. Can I just say, Russian athlete, unless he's competing under a neutral flag, Russian athletes are banned, majority of which from international sport due to the war in Ukraine. Now, moving on to IndyCar now, because they did actually race today at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the road course today. It was the Gallagher Grand Prix, and Alexander Rossi took the honours in that one. I'm just going to get the results for you here. Rossi won ahead of Christian Lundgaard. Will Power was third. Scott McLaughlin was fourth. Joseph Newgarden fifth, despite suffering a heavy crash last week whilst racing at Iowa. Renus VK was sixth. Graham Rahal seventh. Scott Dixon was eighth. Felix Rosenquist was ninth, completing the top 10. Alex Padal, Zach, what's your takeaways from that IndyCar race today?
Yeah, first of all, Charlie, great drive from Christian Lundgaard, finishing second place. He just not have enough pace to win the race, but brilliant pace from him today. Alexander Rossi, good victory for him. Wasn't expected to be. Colton Herta had a problem driving on the curb, and the transmission went up the car, went put when he was in the winning position. So unlucky for Colton Herta. Sam Paginard also having issues as well. In 25th position, a big problem for him as well today. But yeah, good win for Alexander Rossi. He's first in a couple of years, I have to say as well, Charlie. We've been waiting for Alexander Rossi to get a victory in. Marcus Ericsson is no longer at the top of the IndyCar standings, by the way. He got a poor result today in 11th position. Not the top result that he will want, Charlie, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a poor result for him at the moment, Charlie. But yeah, let's go to the driver standings. Will Power is now leading by 11 points, Charlie, ahead of Marcus Ericsson. Joseph Newgarden, and I have to say as well, Scott Dixon is sneaking in there as well, but Will Power just ahead of Marcus Ericsson at the moment. As you can see, 431, 42, 339. It's close at the top, Charlie.
Yeah, next race. When is the next race for you, ask? We go to the next venue, which is going to be, we just had the Gallagher Grand Prix. It's the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, which is in Nashville. Oh, I love this circuit. Last year provided so much crazy action. Marcus Ericsson winning there. That's in Nashville, Tennessee. August the 7th, next weekend, 3:00 Eastern time. That will be a great race. I'm sure everyone will be looking forward to that one. Moving on now to Charlie's good news. This week focuses on the Commonwealth Games action taking place in Birmingham. Special Commonwealth Games report tonight on my show. Obviously, good luck to the Lionesses as well for tomorrow, who are playing in the final of the Women's Euros. So good luck to them. I think we're playing Germany again. I'm not sure on that one.
Yes, that's correct.
This is going to be a rematch of last year's Euros for us. God, wow. Commonwealth Games action, though, today. Plenty of medals being won in the event. Yesterday, we saw Alex Yee taking gold in the triathlon today. We saw many more events being decided, medals being decided. And also, Zach, I have to say, Fiji winning Fiji look like they've won their match in the rugby sevens today.
Yeah, they won their match against Scotland. I saw that match, Charlie. A complete dominant performance by Fiji in the rugby sevens. A totally dominant performance there. Scotland nowhere near it. In terms of what was happening there, nowhere near it, Charlie, at the moment. But let me tell you what's going on at the moment, because obviously keep you up to date. At the moment, the one with the most goals is Australia, New Zealand, 11-7. England have got 4 goals at the moment as well, Charlie. Good things coming out there. Let me just tell you some of the medals as well, Charlie. What's gone on? Let's say the cricket. The world champions Australia beat India by 3 wickets the first ever women's T20 match at the Commonwealth Games. Very important there as well. Big win for them in the rugby sevens. Australia's men 62-0 win over Jamaica yesterday. New Zealand began their defence against Sri Lanka as well. But England bronze medal, so opening 34 minutes to Sonoma before beating Sri Lanka 47-19 as well in the rugby sevens. Women's one, it was England thrashing Sri Lanka, the women's 57-0, but lost 26-19 to Canada in the second match. New Zealand started 47-7 win over Canada as well. In the netball, England, good title defence, starting strongly, 74-22 win over Trinidad as well. And let me just say all the goals as well. Oh, yes, Duncan Scott, Charlie, the Scotsman, winning gold and bronze in the pool today. He won gold in the 200 meters freestyle final and bronze in the 400 meter individual medley. Big win for Duncan Scott as well. So yeah,
Gold medalist from Tokyo as well.
Yeah, as well. So plenty of action today and more action over the next week, Charlie.
Yeah, Ben Proud also took England's first swimming gold in the men's 50-metre butterfly. Scotland's Jack Collin won in the men's Carolyn final. That was a silver medal, followed by Scots or Team GB's. Nia Evans claimed bronze in the women's 3,000-metre pursuit, and Wales's Emma Finnecure secured a second bronze. It secured bronze in the women's sprint as well. Also, other action took place as well today. Also, the sport I'm following, which is the squash. Plenty of action today. A friend of mine competing at Niall Engra got through to the first round, but unfortunately lost to Paul Cole, who is one of the top players in the world. That is being held actually at the University of Birmingham as you speak. All the venues, guys, I'm just going to go over quickly some of the venues for the 2022 Commonwealth Games, so if you're familiar with the event. Venues will be held in Sandwall, Coventry, Warwickshire, Cannock Chase, as well as other areas in Birmingham, the NEC, hosting table tennis, for example. The only venue that hasn't been, the Alexander Stadium will host athletics, track and field events, as well as the opening closing ceremonies. And also, the only venue not in Birmingham that's hosting cycling, track cycling, of course, is the Lee Valley Velo Park, also known as the Velodrome. Remember London 2012? All you fans out there who watched the cycling action, Chris Hoy taking a gold there in the men's Carolyn that year. As well, it's interesting. The men's Carolyn was gold medal that year, so it's going to be interesting as well to talk about that. Commonwealth Games action continues throughout next week as well. More action tomorrow. More medals will be decided. Then para action as well. Moving on now to before let's go to the papers. Let's talk quickly about Joe Biden because okay. We have had a tweet that's just come through from Nigel Farage today. I'm just going to read you guys out here on my show. Because obviously last week we learned that Joe Biden tested positive for coronavirus. Nigel Farage has just tweeted within the last sort of few minutes, really, to issue or send his best wishes to Joe Biden. In a comment I'm going to read to you here, he put, keep getting jabbed and wear 2 masks, Joe, in a tweet there. Breaking fully vaccinated, boosted president test positive for COVID again. with
Yeah.
return to isolation. Zach, what do you make to this?
Yeah, what it is, Charlie, is that he's taken this medicine called Paxlovid. And when you take Paxlovid, it improves your symptoms, Charlie, no doubt about it. But there is a thing with Paxlovid, which means that you could get a breakthrough case of COVID again, twice, basically. The president is one of the people that managed to get this. He's got no symptoms, thankfully, but he's got COVID again. So he's in isolation once again because of the Paxlovid and the medication that he's taking. So not really surprising there, but it's understandable. It's obviously, if he's got no symptoms, just having COVID again proves that it makes you better. No doubt about it, Charlie. So yeah, he will have lots of antibodies. His system will be able to take it, and he'll be fine. I bet you he'll be absolutely fine, Charlie. So yeah, very unfortunate moment for the president of the United States, who's just come out of COVID, gone back into it. Very unlucky, Charlie. Very unlucky.
At least, mind you, I'll come on to Kamala in a minute, but yes, maybe he should have had hydroxychloroquine. I don't know that. The theories around Trump's drug, the drug that Trump endorsed. So, yeah, let's see what that's got. Let's see what's interesting about hydroxychloroquine for a second. Moving on now to talk about the papers right now. I'll probably have to update this feed because there's probably significantly more papers come through now. The time is exactly 10 o'clock at night. So here we go. Sunday Telegraph goes with the front page. £10 fine for an NHS no-show, says Sunak. The Observer goes slick. Sunak urged change tactics before it's too late. The Daily Star goes for hot as hell. Oh my God, cringeworthy climate change headline. Sizzling summer will last until Halloween. Who knows? The Independent goes with a very interesting headline. Britons want a new leader to face a general election. Majority say that Truss or Sunak should call a snap vote. A poll finds just 0.34% of the electorate will choose the next Prime Minister. So who are the Conservative Party members deciding the fate of the nation? From the Independent, the Express goes with the headline, Rishi, I'll save the high street. It leads a story at Sunday Express highlights Rishi Sunak's plan to save the high street if he becomes the new Conservative Party leader, ultimately Prime Minister. Zach, what do you make of the latest newspaper headlines?
Well, let's start with the Telegraph, Charlie, because this one's a bit eye-opening, I have to say. This is an interview Rishi Sunak who's done for the Sunday Telegraph. He's pledging, and I have to say, this is a new one for me, I've heard, to give people a £10 fine if they miss appointments, if they miss GP appointment, checkups, any other appointments that they have. Charlie, if they've missed them, they'll get a £10 fine. I have to say, my opinion on that is that if you seriously genuinely can't make an appointment because of reasons, Charlie, then I don't think you should be fining people for legitimate reasons that you can't make an appointment. I can understand if you just deliberately miss that you waste money and, it's £10 fine, but is £10 fine really going to deter people, Charlie? I don't think it will. £10. Put up to £50 and then you might start scaring people to actually get to their appointments and make sure they don't deliberately miss out. But it's an interesting idea, Charlie. I'm not sure how I feel about it personally, because whilst I understand the purpose of it, I think what will happen, it will disproportionately affect people who generally cannot make an appointment. So yeah, I'm concerned slightly about the implications of this, in my opinion, as well. Let's move on to the Observer, because their front page goes with slick Sunak urged change tactics before it's too late. Ex-Chancellor told to focus on the grassroots. Only brief window left in the leadership race as well. He's been urged to overhaul his general election style campaign for the grassroots efforts, speaking directly to Tory members in last-ditch attempt to beat Liz Truss in the Conservative leadership. Well, I think it's too late, personally, Charlie, for me at the moment, unless there's some massive bombshell that members will find out. about Liz Truss, I don't think that Sunak can make up the ground at this race. It's only a brief window, and it's not going to come easy, I don't think, at the moment, Charlie. The Daily Star, with their comical front page, goes for hot as hell, and it's got a skeleton, literally a dead skeleton, on some sunbathe that looks like it's rotted away. Sizzling summer will last until Halloween. Yeah, that's quite scary, actually, think about it, Charlie. Super hot days will be with us all the way to Halloween, says Weather Boss, with a balmy autumn forecast. This is the Daily Star. I'm not sure whether, they are the best weather forecasting, Charlie, but yeah, it might be warm for a few months. I can imagine maybe August will probably be warm, September will probably be a little bit warm as well. But until October, hopefully it's going to start cooling down then anyway, but I hope so. As well, the Independent goes for Britain wants new leaders to face the general election. And as you can tell, Charlie, by that massive graph, just 0.34% of the electorate will choose the next prime minister. Yes, that's true. That's correct, Charlie. That's a minority population that are taking on selecting the next prime minister. I mean, it's quite something if you think about it. The majority of them are saying that if there is an election, if there is a new prime minister, they should be forced to call a snap general election. The Savanta poll found that 56% agree that whoever wins should call a general election immediately. Sir Keir Starmer has already challenged the winner on the September 5th to call a snap election. It reminded me, actually, do you know what? Keir Starmer reminded me a bit of Jeremy Corbyn's, where he would always call for elections soon as possible, depending on the leader and the policy change and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's kind of similar strategies. Interesting in that one as well. And the Sunday Express, Charlie, goes for Rishi, I will save the high street. PM contend advice help shop thrive, punch hooligans, and stop banks closing cash machines. He has promised to provide 58,000 empty shops and stop banks from closing branches. I have to say, Charlie, on principle, not a bad idea from Rishi Sunak, actually. Because not everyone can use online, you see. So a lot of young people probably will be able to use online and all that sort of things as well. But older people, it's, I suppose, a bit difficult, really, to be fair, Charlie, getting them to use, devices, generation stuff online. It all could be a bit complicated for them. I can understand. There's a generation divide in how we use those sort of things as well. Let's go through some of the other ones I was going to say, Charlie. Let's go through some of the other ones as well that's not been released yet, but I'll give you an example. Daily Mail of Saturday, 17 million face hosepipe ban with water firms waste millions of gallons a day. I remember, was it 2010 that we had something similar?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, there was actually a hosepipe ban, Charlie, on things, and it got so hot then it had to be banned. It's been a while since I've heard one of them as well. After the first wave of restrictions actually underway yesterday. Southern Water announced it was taking drastic action because of Parish Rivers installing demand on one of the driest years on record. I mean, that's climate change for you. Anyone who fill ponds and swimming pools face the potential fine of up to £1,000. That's £1,000 every time you should be saving and water and everything like that, and not wasting all your crap and all that sort of thing. As well. Oh, a new paper's just come out, Charlie. The Sunday People goes for "Come on, you Lionesses." This is the fact that the Women's World Euros is tomorrow, final tomorrow, Charlie. England against Germany said, "Come on, Lionesses." I totally agree. If the men can nearly do it, the women can, Charlie. Let's cheer on the Lionesses, and hopefully they'll beat the Germans. It'll be such a display if they do that, Charlie. They'll be going to the history books as perhaps the second ever England team to win a major competition in either the men's or the women's, Charlie. So our 1966 could be could be this year's 2022, hopefully, in terms of the females. So good luck to them. But that is the papers, Charlie.
Yeah.
For today and yesterday, really.
Yeah, and Zach, before I move on to the Great British Star and Red Devil, what did you make to Sam Terry being sacked by Keir Starmer as from Labour over picket line strikes?
Yeah, so what this was about, Charlie, was the Labour Party response to this is that he was sacked not because he went on a picket line, but because he made unauthorised media appearances and made up party policy. I can understand that, Charlie. It's something called collective responsibility, where you don't go around making up your own policy. You have to support the shadow cabinet's policy, basically, position, and you have to argue that on the television. So Sam Terry thought this was too much for him. He went up on Sky News and I believe Good Morning Britain, unauthorised. Went on there, stole the show, and yeah, he got sacked for defying Keir Starmer, basically. That's what the Labour Party definition is. The supporters of Sam Terry are saying, well, no, it's simply because you wouldn't have picked a line, they got sacked. The Labour Party's position on this has been that the front bench should not go on the picket line, although there wasn't an explicit order not to on last time. There has been strikes. Today there's been strikes on Thursday as well, Charlie. There's been strikes as well that on Thursday. And there will be more strikes over the summer as well. In fact, yesterday, BT workers went on strike yesterday as well. And they're going on strike tomorrow as well. So a lot of strikes are happening over the next few weeks. It'll be a test of the new Conservative leader, I think. Liz Truss has said that she would introduce new legislation to reduce the amount of strikes that the unions could do. That's a very interesting wedge issue to the Conservative base. I have to say, I don't know if the general public will totally agree with that on the unions, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's another wedge issue that will continue over the summer, Charlie.
Yeah, stay tuned for more action on picket lines and strikes and whatever really you can get. Moving on now to the Great British Star and Red Devil. Nominations this week for the Great British Stars and Red Devils are now open, and we have for you the nomination list being complete. And I want to give you guys full confirmation that there is going to be absolutely no spin, no bias on these issues. Let's start with my nominations for the Great British Star and Red Devil. Well, the Great British Stars today, I'm going to give mine to George Russell for securing his maiden pole position in F1. What an incredible result for him. I mean, look, questionable whether he wins the race tomorrow or not, but to get a pole position in Formula One, what an achievement you have done. A brilliant, brilliant effort by Mercedes today.
I know.
Off the pace all season. I'm also going to give the second nomination. A lot of people might say it's controversial, but I don't think it is. It's Piers Morgan this week for the interviews in Ukraine and bringing actually really quite very great coverage of reporting from Ukraine. Many media organisations don't seem to be focusing on the war that much. And this week, Piers Morgan has gone out there, been brave, and really given us an insight into what is happening in the war in Ukraine, whilst the war is going on, of course. And my thoughts are with all those people who've lost loved ones in Ukraine, because that interview you just heard earlier was truly emotional, but also a very inspiring interview. As well, Red Devils this week go to the World Health Organization for Susan Mish being basically elected to behavioural position, and Dr. Tedros for declaring a monkeypox emergency this week when there have only been 3 deaths as well. Come on, why monkeypox isn't like COVID? Why are we getting back into scaremongering again? Jeez. And my final nomination is this video of US Vice President Kamala Harris introducing herself, and Conservatives thrown a fit. Have a listen to the video of her wearing a mask, announcing pronouns. Have a listen.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
Yes, Republicans couldn't miss the opportunity to protect and induce tampering with Lauren Borbett. They're saying Kamala Harris just introduced herself with she and her pronouns at the official event. She then clarified that she was women sitting table wearing a blue suit. This is what happens when your speechwriter quits and you no longer hang around with geriatric Joe for too long. So clearly, Joe
I think you know,
COVID test and also Kamala Harris's mask wearing pronouns.
I think that's harsh, to be fair, Charlie. I'll tell you why this. That was, I believe, for a disability event. And the point of a disability event is that these people are blind, Charlie, so they can't see what's going on. So I can understand why she announced her pronouns, because nobody can see what they're like. She's like, they can't see her face. They can't actually see. They're blind. They got to describe it to them. So I can understand the reason of announcing pronouns, even if you agree or disagree with it. It sounds a bit. I know it's something that sounds a bit weird, but I thought it was a decent reason to say that. I don't necessarily agree with that, to be fair, Charlie, but I agree with the 2 stars, certainly, though, Charlie. Let me say that. Let me get on, though, to my picks of the week. I'm going to combine honorary mention and the Great British Stars this week to the England Lionesses, certainly this week. One for winning their 4-0 match against, I think it was Sweden on Tuesday, Charlie. It was fantastic overall all-round performance to get them through to the final. As I said before, Charlie, we're cheering on the Lionesses. They've been absolute great role model for women across this sport and across the generational divide as well, Charlie. They've been completely brilliant. And I just have to say, I'll give them the British Star this week and the honorary mention. The Red Devil this week, Charlie, I'm going to give the Red Devil, it's an interesting one. I'm going to give it to Suella Braverman. And I'll tell you why. This week, an article from The Telegraph came out this week where apparently the Attorney General has told government lawyers to stop saying that their policies to ministers are unlawful. So let me get this straight. You are a lawyer employed by the government and you cannot tell government ministers that your policies are unlawful. So what's the point of lawyers? It makes the government sound like nodding communist dogs. It really are. It sounds like you got to employ a bunch of yes mate lawyers to get what you want. But the idea that you would basically ban lawyers from saying that your laws are unlawful if you implement them, potentially because you have to go to court, Charlie, makes the use of lawyers in the first place a bit redundant at first. And Suella Braverman has accepted this policy. What? I mean, the mind baffles, Charlie. The mind totally and utterly baffles that is even a good idea. And for that, she is this week's Red Devil.
Yeah, well, of course, if you knew who Suella Braverman was, she did actually run for Prime Minister as well in the Tory leadership contest. So, yeah, all I can say is that's nomination for the Red Devil this week. And certainly very interesting nominations as well. And also, good luck tomorrow to the England Lionesses for playing Germany in the final. We want you to win. You deserve it. I hope you bring back trophy as well. And to George Russell, let's hope you can deliver tomorrow in the Formula One action in Hungary. But that's it for the Charlie Tolhurst Show tonight. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope it's been great keeping you company live on YouTube. I'll be back again next week for more action on the latest news. Take care, everyone. And